Hey there, everyone. Thank you for being here today and always. It's always a pleasure to share with you. And for those of you who are here regularly and subscribe, thank you so much. For those of you who might be new, then subscribing is greatly appreciated. It helps to grow the channel and allow more people to see it who might resonate and find support with what I share. So, the last 3 videos that we did, this is going to be a follow-up and probably the closing of this sequence. So if you have not seen the last 3 videos, then I encourage you to check that out. This might make more sense, or you might already be in this vibe, so maybe it'll just affirm and confirm what you already know. So with that, the last 3 videos were, I'm going to write them down so I can remember the titles. There was a part 1 and part 2, Living from Your Soul Blueprint. Okay? Living from your soul blueprint or your divine blueprint, which is part 1 and 2. The third one is staying true to yourself equals growing your soul power, right? Which is part of our divine blueprint. The last one, number 3, was allowing your soul presence or your divine blueprint to guide your way and to guide your path. So when we're talking about soul presence or divine blueprint, we're actually also talking about divine source. God, life, love, whatever that is for you. This is that ultimate intelligence communicating through our unique and divine signature frequency. The blueprint that is incarnated into our energetics for this trajectory of ascension. So this is, of course, for those of you on the ascension or the awakening journey. I still got paint. I'm still painting over at my new space. Who are on this journey and primarily consciously, I welcome everybody, of course, but you're going to understand it more if you are consciously choosing this path. Okay? And we can choose it awakening, choose to call it, doesn't have to be ascension, your own spiritual development, your own spiritual evolution, whatever that is, but it really does require us to be in relationship with it and with all of us, from this physical reality into our higher expressions as well. All of that is going to be in many other videos on my channel. Today what I wanted to do is I wanted to talk a little bit more about why, right? What is all of this meaning and why are these things, these dialing in, tuning into our own frequency resonance. I don't like to use the word destiny, but it could be applicable. I really like understanding that we have many potentials and we choose our potential reality by the choices that we make. But I do believe that there is ultimately that highest potential that we could choose that is our destiny. All right? All of this, all of these potentials are already written and coded into our energetics, into our DNA, into our sacred technology that is in the body. All right? And if this doesn't make sense, then you can certainly go back into back in my library, right, 2 or 3 years ago, 4 years ago maybe, and that will help to break some of that down. So what I wanted to talk more about today is as we begin to follow our soul's guidance, our divine blueprint, allowing these templates, okay, these structures to continue to build themselves in our energetics. The more that we say yes and follow that which is in our highest good, we are in essence saying yes to the divine. We are in essence to saying yes to life in its highest mysterious intelligence and organization. We don't have to know what all that is. We don't have to know what God is, what life, what divine source is. But we'll feel it the more that we align and open to it. The more that we decide to choose to anchor in more peace, more coherence, these are the buzzwords I've been using, more unconditional love, more living from the inside, gauging our truth and our knowing from the inside out, rather than letting the outer world on this physical plane dictate reality to us. We come more into the divine flow through us. And the more that we open to divine flow and trust and make the choices that are in that communication, life gets easier. True story. It gets easier. It gets more peaceful. We have more freedom. We have greater and deeper faith and trust. And we, as an evolving being, expands more fully into the realms of love. Now, Sandra Walter, if you aren't familiar with her, I highly recommend her. She's an amazing guide. She's an amazing teacher, and I've been following her for years. She is really dialed in to being able to let's just say communicate with and I don't know what the word is that I'm looking for, but decipher, right? And just know a lot of the codes and the frequencies that come in via different expressions, like plasma, diamond frequencies, the diamond light frequencies, the Christed cosmic frequencies. So that's like her mojo, right? And she begins then to be able, because she's ahead of the curve to a great degree, as far as what it is and how we're embodying. What does it look like when we begin to embody these codes in a greater degree, when we have more and more light in our body? So I want to just, and light in our body and expands our consciousness. I want to just share sort of my own version and my experience of some of what has been coming through lately, that when I read her email last month, it just landed. I was like, yep, that's what's happening. That's what's going down. So she's giving us a 3-year window, right? So from 2025 to end of 2027, 2028, that we are in this prime pocket to be really consciously present and focused on what it is that we're creating. Not from out there, inside here. We want to be up-leveling our frequencies very quickly because we're moving into a much, what is the word? A much more elevated space over these next couple years. And for those of us on this journey, we want to be riding this wave. We want to be choosing it. We want to be letting go, letting go, letting go of everything that is not fitting into who we are in this now moment. Who and how we're being called forward to receive our highest expression, i.e., our soul presence and turning on the next levels of our divine blueprint, right? So we actively do this. We actively call these expressions of the divine and of ourself forward by saying, yes, we're willing now to divinely align with whatever is ready to come next, because we've already hit a level that is where we've anchored in and we've plateaued. So part of the requirements that she is bringing forth, two that I want to talk about here, first and foremost, have to do with really, really purifying any areas that carry fear. Any things that trigger you into a fear-based expression. To be healing those, transmuting those, and coming into the higher frequency of the heart, into divine neutrality, which means we don't choose for or against. And we bring in a brain and heart convergence and coherence. Oftentimes, what happens is we get triggered into massive thought forms and storylines, right? When we run up against a fearful experience or fearful information, it triggers the brain as well as trauma responses in the body, but it triggers the brain to start unwinding all sorts of storylines. They're going to come from past experience, but they're also really going to come from whatever programming and conditioning we carry inside of us. So really just feel into that. You know when you get triggered. At this point in time, if you're on this channel, you know when you get triggered. That is the moment where you start recognizing, whoa, I'm triggered. What am I afraid of? Okay, because she's specifically talking about fear. What is it that I'm afraid of? What is the story that's going on? I suggest you write it down. Write it out. Get it out of the head. And then you can begin to read it from an observing and witnessing perspective. And then you get to question, is this true for me? Is this my truth? Is this fear my reality? Or have I just been told it in a number of ways from a number of sources that now I think it's mine? If there is pieces of it that is yours, then you're going to want to deal with that. You want to heal it. You want to clear it. right? You want to understand where it comes from. You want to understand what are the roots and the tendrils that it expands into. And you don't have to go into the story, but you do need to clear it. So that means if you don't know how to clear your own energetics, then you need to find somebody who does. So I'm talking a little bit, I noticed I didn't mean to do that, but I realize I'm talking a little bit more, just like pointedly. Because in the trajectory that we're on, these things have to be done before you can move to the next levels. And I want everybody to move to the next level, right? I want everybody to move to the next level, not through continued chaos that's going to drag you on the spiral for a while, but quick, ease and grace, let's do it, right? We can do it so quickly. That is the amazingness of this time that we're in. So you want to be able to quiet the brain and come into this divine neutrality. What is divine neutrality? If you have not yet accessed a frequency that does not go up and down with different emotions all the time, or with different information, or through different experiences where you feel, oh, I'm super excited, oh, I'm really disappointed. You're still on the yo-yo. Neutrality is where it's not static or stagnant, but we don't go up and down. We might go, oop, 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 okay? But we balance it out with more expansion and peace. And coherence, there's that magic word again, coherence, which allows our frequency and our vibration to come into, I'm just going to use the word, a deep, peaceful, harmonized expression. And we begin to acclimate in living from that. Now, that can hold a lot of different expression, right? We can become enthusiastic, because enthusiasm is different than excitement. Excitement works on the nervous system. Enthusiasm is a natural and innate frequency and state of being of our divinity, just like joy. All right? So we want to begin to start accessing that space of neutrality where our mind is quieted, and then we learn to gauge and maintain this. So I can say for myself personally, I've been working with sort of regulating my system for a couple years now in this place of neutrality. And what I've noticed recently is that I am quickly alerted, like really quick, when I come out of that space. Now, in the past, I was aware of it, and I don't usually go too high or too low, but I will say this last 8 months or so, 6 months definitely, tested this. And as it tested it, I was guided to refine it. So through the trials and tribulations, my guidance was to not allow it to go to either extreme, and really dismantle quickly within moments, and come right back into the truth. Truth being the truth of our soul presence. So now it's getting even subtler and quicker. So the minute that I leave This integrated state, even by that much, I notice it, and it becomes like this interesting, deeply acute, like wake up call, right? And again, this can be if I get too excitable. Again, it's different than enthusiasm or joy. The moment I have judgment, the moment I have fear, the moment I have, well, I don't know what else I have. We'll just say that, like agitation, right? Something doesn't go my way. Then I can feel it, and I have a choice in that moment to return to truth, to turn it all over into the divine and say, nope, this is too much for me right now. This is yours. Or I walk away. Simple. I just walk away. So what this means is I'm choosing consciously that I choose my peace. I choose my wholeness. I am refusing on deeper and deeper levels. I will not get pulled out of my center into anything that is not mine. Okay? Or any shadow aspects. If I do, I need to attend to it lovingly, compassionately, understanding, and then ask for that assistance from within my own soul and my blueprint to support this. All right? So mind and heart regulation, integration, coherence into divine neutrality, which sends us into divine love and expansion and soul presencing. So that's the first point. The second one, well, I kind of just talked about it, is we're staying really present to what our reality is and what we're choosing. So there are all sorts of reality streams, okay? We see one stream of reality on the news. We see one stream of reality, in our daily life. We see one stream of reality in our communities, one stream in our workplace. So as you can see, what's happening is that there are many ways in which reality is expressing. There is not just one reality. And this goes back to the one of the last videos about, well, this is just what reality is. It isn't. That is not true anymore. There are many realities, and our reality comes from the consciousness inside of us. So I might, happen upon a video, right? Like of the news or whatever, or open up my email and my email has the news for the day. And depending on what I carry as my karma, I might see something that like triggers me. That trigger might kind of lure me in, right? Like, oh, what is going on there? What is that about? But when I'm aware then of, yeah, you know what? That's not the reality that I want to ingest. Does that mean that that reality doesn't exist? No. Does it mean that it may not have an impact? It might have an impact. The impact that any reality is going to have on us is going to be based again on our internal construct, our karma, our way of holding it and perceiving it. Be clear, because I'm not interested in like debates on worst case scenarios, right? Of somebody's a victim of this or any of that. That isn't what I'm going to talk about here. However, I will say that our ability to create happens consciously and subconsciously, and sometimes it is far beyond what we understand from an egoic level. Okay? So I understand that there are harsh realities happening in the world, and energetically, we also can work with those, not diving completely in, but holding the higher vision, holding love, sending prayer, sending peace, whatever that is. I've talked about that before. Everybody's individual responsibility is very different. We are not all activists. That is not everybody's reality. Okay? So, I can choose either I'm going to open up that little bit of can of worms and let my curiosity read that email, and then I'm going to be dealing with the frequency of that. And if I'm still triggered by it, right, then I'm going to have to move through the mire of, oh, what are my thought forms about this? What are my feelings about this? What is my belief actually about this? Where does this frighten me? Is it valid? Is it true to my reality and my existence? Okay, all of that. Or I go, interesting, not interested. At the point that I'm not actually interested, where I'm not lured in, and where I literally have no trigger in either direction, there is no for or against, I've neutralized that. Okay? I've healed it in me. So the choice becomes even easier because it's neutral. There's no magnetic pull to it. Let's say I'm at work, if I have a job and I have a coworker that doesn't like me, or I have a challenging time with whatever is going on, that is a container for my practice, a life practice of how I choose to be in relationship with it, and how do I best come into the truth within me, all my energy in me, my soul presence in me, my higher wisdom in me, and choose my reality that is inside me. All right? Which is, I can't control every outcome. I can't control every person. Not everybody is going to like me. That's okay, right? We don't have to take on the outside realities. As we begin to move through the dimensional shifts, a reality that you might experience is that all of that stuff starts to fade away. You don't encounter it as much. We don't experience the chaos and the challenges as much, because now we are anchoring in a very different reality, and we're surrendering to divine wisdom. We're surrendering to divine timing. We're surrendering and we're following the guide that is speaking to us from within, or perhaps our guides, or perhaps life is showing us. When we don't surrender, and there is not an expectation on how fast that we're supposed to surrender, because my experience is that the more along you are in your trajectory and the less there's the the personality that clings to the thought forms and the programming, the less there is of that, surrendering becomes very easy. The more that there is of that, we still have attachments to what we want and how we want things to be. We still have belief systems that are, trying to work themselves through. So it's still a bit of a process. However, when we do get to this point where the expansion is more of our innate being, our blueprint, we're living from our soul presence, we're embodied, we're anchored, we're grounded, we are living in love with life. And we know that life loves us. It's a very different experience. So I want to end this with the encouragement and the direct experience that where we're going, in my belief, as humanity, where we're going is that eventually all of us, but those of us who are doing this work, now are going to be there a lot faster. We are going to be so in love with every choice that we make, every component of our life, everything that is showing up, even when it's challenging, because we understand that it is only a mechanism for us to move to a next higher level. So the invitation is, I would love, right, for all of us to live in love with life and know that life is loving us. And that everything that we're doing in our life is because we're consciously choosing it, because it brings us happiness, peace, and joy, and richness, and wisdom, and depth, and compassion, and love. I mean, how amazing is that, right? So I'm going to end it with that. The invitation, what do you need to do? How do you need to shift? What are the next steps that you need to make to begin, if you're not already there, allowing all of your life choices to be choices that you love and you know are fulfilling your highest good? Because life loves us. Divine life loves us and only wants all of life to flourish. All right. Many blessings. Much love.